All right. Show of hands, is there a veteran in the room? Can you start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance? Do we have a flag? Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. So my name is Lisa Allen, and I'm here on behalf of the Government Strategy Group. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand so that I know. You can't hear me? Okay. Here, I'm going to walk around. All right, so my name is Lisa Allen. I'm with the Government Strategy Group. I am going to introduce my teammates in just a few minutes. But what I do want to do is just talk about what tonight is. So we had a great listening session a couple weeks ago, and that's what we're doing tonight. You have two amazing communities, by the way. We had a great meeting, and everybody was just came up and was very respectful. So tonight we're doing a listening session, and just to define that for anybody that was not in the room prior, a listening session is so that we can hear feedback from the community. We're not doing Q&A or debate. Obviously, everybody is here tonight to talk about the annexation impact study that Government Strategy is working on. We will not take any action tonight. We're not taking any votes. We are only here to hear from you because you're the community and you know what's happening. So we just want you to know it is strictly a listening session tonight. I know you probably can't see this, but I'm just going to read it. So what is our goal? We want to hear directly from you. We want to hear how you feel regarding the annexation, what matters to you, gather feedback, and create the study, the impact study, that we can then give to the elected officials so that they can make the best decision possible, okay? The agenda's right here, right here. We're going to do the welcome, the history, listening session, and wrap up. We have a hard stop at 8 o'clock. Again, last week went great. We ended it early. So the only thing I do ask, I'm going to go over the rules really quick, even though we don't need to, I'm going to. We have 3 minutes for you to come up and talk about your questions. I know 3 minutes feels like a short amount of time. There's a lot of people in this room, and we absolutely want to hear from as many people as possible. So we just ask that you keep to the 3 minutes. If you get to 2:40, I will time you. If we get to 2:45 and you're almost to the 3 minutes, I will ask you to wrap up. This is your meeting in the sense that you're in the driver's seat. We want to hear from you. I just ask that I'm going to manage the room tonight. So please do not talk over everybody. Please listen to your friends and your neighbors and what they have to say. They come up, they'll give a list of questions or concerns. This is being recorded. Unlike the chamber room, there are no other microphones in the room. So if you speak from the back of the room, no one's going to hear you. So I ask that if you do want to speak, please come to the microphone and don't talk over your friends. That's it. So I'm going to introduce my teammates. And I have here is Kevin DeRoberts. He started, and he's the CEO and founder of Government Strategy Group. We have Sharon Roundtree, who is the project manager on the project for the impact study. And we have Jean Cipriani, who will go over the history and how we kind of got here in terms of the annexation. So in terms of process, goal, and rules, does anybody have any questions for me at this moment? Raise your hand if you do. No? Great. Okay. I'm going to have Ken say hello, and then Sharon, and then Jean.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this evening. So we were retained by the mayor and council to conduct the annexation impact study. So we are examining all aspects of whatever we can get information on regarding the potential annexation. Our report is not going to make a conclusion as to whether or not an annexation should go forward or not. Our report is going to present factual information with backup details so that will enable the mayor and council to make informed decisions about going forward. And we've got a team that consists of various experts from public works, public safety, finance, etc., to look at all aspects of the municipal operations and how they will be impacted, including financial modeling to show what the potential financial impact could be. And I emphasize could be because we can't make any conclusions on that. That's going to be taken up in a process that would follow if a successful vote for annexation move forward. So that's the gist of the annexation study. We have a team of about 10 different professionals working on it. We've been working on it for the past 2 months and look to have a draft report probably within the next 60 days. So, and now I just want to introduce our project manager, Senior Managing Director, Sharon Roundtree.
Thank you, Ken. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's really fantastic to see so many people out tonight on what I think is a cold night as it gets late into the winter season. As a former business administrator for several municipalities, you can tell that people in this community really care because so many of you are out tonight. So thank you. I just want to kind of follow up and emphasize a little bit of what Ken said about our team and what we've been doing. Ken founded Government Strategy Group about 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And while he won't brag about it, he has put together a fantastic team of experts. Several of us are former administrators, police chiefs, chief financial officers, tax assessors, a division of local government services directors. So there's a group of experts who you are not seeing up here tonight who have really been diligently looking, researching, gathering information, gathering data for several months now. So we will compile all of that and put that into a report, which will likely answer many of the questions that you have tonight. But as former administrators and people who have worked for government for so long, we understand that the importance of anything is the feedback that we get from the community. This is an unusual study. It rarely happens in New Jersey, annexations. So we have done several studies. Our company has done shared service, consolidation studies, all kinds of analysis for municipalities and local governments. But this one's a little bit unusual. So you guys might have thoughts and ideas that haven't even crossed our mind, and we really want to hear it. The other thing I will say before I give this back to Lisa is we're hearing everything that you're saying tonight. As Lisa said, this is being recorded, so if you don't see us frantically taking notes, it's because we have a team that we're going to listen to the recording and write everything. We're not answering questions tonight, first, because our team is working on those answers, but we will put together an FAQ. It will be available on the website. With all of your questions, all of the questions that we got from the last listening session. Lisa went around and handed these sheets out. If you didn't get one, they are up here. If you don't like to talk in groups or you just want to get home early, feel free to put questions, comments, thoughts on these. We're going to compile everything, put out one general FAQ for factual answers that we can. We're not going to give an opinion. Our job is not to give an opinion. Our job is to give facts. And we'll also incorporate the comments as an addendum, any comments that we get from people in the community. So I just wanted to let you know, we're going to sit up here. It's not that we don't want to answer. We want to make sure that we get you the right answer and we hear everyone out. So that's why we're not going to do a back and forth. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to have Jean go over the second document that you guys have. Does everybody have a document that they need? If you do not have a document of history and you need one, just raise your hand so I can get it to you before we start. Okay, that's what I'll do. All right, keep your hands up. I'm going to have Jean start, and I'm just going to walk around and give these to you.
Hi, I'm Jean Cipriani. I'm not a part of Government Strategy Group. I'm an attorney, held as special counsel for this matter by the borough. And the document that you're getting and what I'm here to talk to you about is really what the process is under the law. I'm not talking about the history so much. I know that this question of annexation has come up before, in Seaside Park. That's not you. There are people in this room, I have no doubt, who know that history far better than I do. But what I'm here to tell you about, and what's sort of summarized in the handout that Lisa's bringing on, is what the legal process is and why, in light of that process, the governing body is taking the steps that it's taken. So, though it's not common, there is a process in New Jersey law for de-annexation, leaving one municipality and annexing to another. And that has happened periodically. Some of you may be aware of different parts of Lavalette, the Toms River, leaving Toms River and joining with Lavalette, and that happened in the last 10 to 15 years. So in this particular case, what happened is, I think you're all aware, is that the people of South Seaside Park, a majority of them, were 60% of the amount under the statute, decided that they would like to leave Berkeley Township and join with Seaside Park. And that process has been going on for 10 or 11 years. They made, as they have to under the law, they got a petition with the right number of signatures, and they presented that to the Township of Berkeley. As it is required to under law, Berkeley Township, the governing body there, then referred it to the planning board. And they had, over a process of 2, maybe 3 years, a series of planning board meetings with that as the topic to get information. At the end of that process, their planning board made a recommendation to the governing body. The governing body rejected the petition. Berkeley Township said, we think that the impacts on Berkeley are too great and we cannot consent to the de-annexation. As is their right under the law, the residents of South Seaside Park took that first to Superior Court here in Toms River, then to the Appellate Division, and then to the New Jersey Supreme Court. The New Jersey Supreme Court, in a decision, if anybody wants to look it up, it's called Whiteman versus Township Council of Berkeley Township. If you just Google that, you could find it. And that will give you a much more detailed description of the history, and it will also give you a description of what Berkeley Township did and their governing body did that had an impact on how the court viewed their decision. And that one of those things was that Berkeley Township, members of the governing body, the planning board, spoke a lot publicly beforehand. I mean, this was a big deal. It was a big question for them, and they made their feelings known. The problem with that is that they were having hearings. And so when you're having hearings, you're supposed to not prejudge something. That was what the court said, that there was evidence that the governing body had made its mind up before any information came in. And that was one of the primary reasons that the court found that the governing body had been arbitrary and capricious, which is a big standard. I mean, that's the thing that the government can never be, is arbitrary and capricious. And so in that case, the court made that determination. The process that Seaside Park's governing body is undergoing now is, in light of that decision and in light of the seriousness of this question, because the governing body has a lot of the same questions that you do, and they have gone through this process and engaged consultants, both government strategy group and a planner, and I'll talk about that in a minute, to try to get as much information as possible. It is not possible to get all questions answered prior to a decision being made, but they're trying to get as much information as possible. And I will talk a little bit about the questions that cannot be answered prior to a decision. But that is also why the governing body they're here tonight among you. They're trying to get the information beforehand and not make any decision until all of that information is in. So under the law, and if anybody wants to look up the statute, it's New Jersey Statutes 40A:7-12 through 27. And if you look at that statute, then you'll know that what I'm telling you now is true. There's a lot of information in the statute about what happens and the process for the town that's being asked if we can leave you. right? So in this case, Berkeley Township. So there was a lot of information on the process that Berkeley was supposed to undergo. There is not as much information and direction in the statute in this piece where we are right now. They get very specific again in a little while, and I'll tell you about that. But right now, we're in the process where all it is you have to consider. So the question has come up from some people who feel strongly that it's not a good idea for Seaside Park. Why doesn't the governing body just reject the idea immediately? So if the governing body were to do that, then the people in South Seaside Park could go to Superior Court and say, Seaside Park governing body made a decision, and that was arbitrary and capricious. They had no information, they have no basis for it, not other than, and I'm sorry, this is not public opinion. That itself is not enough. They have to have real facts to back up their decision. Equally, if they were just to say, okay, come aboard, we're going to take you in right now, people who in Seaside Park who feel like that is not a good idea or may not be a good idea, or certainly don't feel like there's enough information to decide whether or not that's a good idea, those residents of Seaside Park could go to court and say, the governing body of Seaside Park acted arbitrarily and capriciously. They acted without the information. So that's really the source of where this process that the governing body is engaging in is coming from, because there are a lot of factors to consider. You're aware of some of them. They're operational factors. They're certainly financial factors, because what happens under the law is when it comes to a vote of the governing body, so it has to be done by ordinance. And you've heard a little bit about the process. The intention is to have a report, have that report made available. Maybe there'll be a session to answer questions, and that's also happening at the planning board or at the planning level separately, but you will also be seeing that report and have the opportunity to weigh in, and that's important for a reason I'll get to, which is this. So the governing body considers an ordinance. If they say yes on first reading, like any other ordinance, then there has to be a second reading, and there's an opportunity for public comment on second reading. Say that happens, and the governing body were to say yes. Then when that ordinance is published in the newspaper, because it's a borough form of government, that ordinance is then immediately effective. On the effective date of that ordinance, then South Seaside Park would become part of Seaside Park immediately on the effective date of the ordinance. There is no ability under the law to say, all right, we'll make it effective, March 1st or July 1st or any other time in the future. If you take them, then as soon as the ordinance is effective, they are part of Seaside Park. What that means is that, hello? I really personally hate microphones. I'm doing the best I can here. So the second it becomes effective, what that means is that Berkeley Township's ordinances, that it's no longer part of Berkeley Township. So Berkeley Township's ordinances will not apply to the people in South Seaside Park when the effective date of that ordinance any more than it does to anyone who lives in Seaside Park today. Okay, everybody awake? All right. Yeah. So what that means is that we need to, and you'll see that if the governing body were to consider that ordinance to annex, to take South Seaside Park, what you will see with that is also zoning ordinances. So I said that there's a planner that is working and looking at the planning ordinances right now. So then zoning ordinances that would cover the South Seaside Park section would travel along with that ordinance on whether to annex or not. Because if Seaside Park takes it, then as soon as you've taken it, you have to have zoning ordinances in place, because Berkeley's ordinances will not apply. So we need to have ordinances in place. And as you are aware far better than I am, South Seaside Park has some different kinds of housing types than we have here in Seaside Park. So it's not like we can just extend our ordinances over. Someone at the last meeting suggested, well, can we just adopt Berkeley's ordinances? And we'd still have to do them ourselves, right? Because those ordinances don't exist now, but maybe want to do things a little bit differently. There are certain requirements we have at Seaside Park. Maybe those are appropriate for that section, maybe not. Those are the things that the planner would be looking at, and there will be public hearing on those ordinances on that report as well for that consideration. When that happens too, if it becomes the effective date, the second that happens, are ordinances of general application, right? Things with the building department, or speeding and parking and all of the other ordinances immediately. If they're an ordinance of general application, then they immediately apply to the people of South Seaside Park, and Berkeley Townships no longer do. However, it's clear in the statute that if there's an ongoing issue, so if there's a tax appeal in the South Seaside Park section that's pending, or a municipal court matter, anything that is already in place, those claims continue, and that's all handled by Berkeley. We don't take over any existing claims. Everything sort of starts fresh, but obviously things like tax appeals and municipal court violations are based on past actions. So if the next thing that happens after the effective date of the ordinance, and now all of a sudden, as I said, the statute doesn't have a lot of information on what we're supposed to do. They were kind of clear on what Berkeley had to do, and then they weren't clear about what you have to consider. That's why the governing body has, put together a list of topics and hired consultants to try and make sure, and have these listening groups to try and make sure that they're looking at every possible aspect to see if it's going to be the right thing for Seaside Park. And obviously that's also a short-term and a long-term consideration, right? Because long-term, there are going to be other considerations, tax revenue, et cetera, coming in, but short-term, there are going to be obligations that are going to begin immediately before that revenue starts arriving. So all of a sudden the statute wakes up and decides that they want to tell us exactly what we need to do. And I mean exactly. So at the same time the ordinances, if it were on second reading, it were to be adopted, you would also see a resolution, because now Seaside Park has to appoint 3 people, only 3 people, no more, no less, to be basically Team Seaside Park in a negotiation with Berkeley about financial matters. Under the statute, one of the things that happens if there is some portion, if there were some of Berkeley's bonding over the last 20 years that was that are still outstanding bonds. We're not talking about past bonds, outstanding bonds that is attributable to work that was done in South Seaside Park, then Berkeley is going to say, Seaside Park, you pay for that. Now you're getting the benefit. We did this work to benefit our people. They're not our people anymore. They're yours. You need to, and the statute provides that, take over some portion of that debt and develop a plan on how that would be paid. They may also say, we think that you have to take certain property. One municipality may own property in another municipality. There's no law against that. So some of those things, like the beach, were addressed by the Supreme Court and would just follow along. Other things, like other property that Berkeley has, are not. So they're going to say, do you want to buy them? We want to sell it. What's the value of it? So there's a financial now, after the ordinance has been adopted, after the decision is made. That's when the negotiation on the financial part takes place under the statute. So the governing body is trying to get as much information as it can now on what those amounts are likely going to be, what our position in Seaside Park would be likely to be, what are the things that are really clear, what are the things that are gray areas where we think Berkeley may take a different position, because we don't know exactly. The governing body cannot say to you, just in terms of taking over debt or costs of property, this is the number before we make the decision, because the statute makes that after the decision. So 3 people from Seaside Park, and then 3 people are appointed by Berkeley Township. In terms of specificity, check this out. On the Monday following the effective date of the ordinance at 10 a.m., the meeting has to take place in the Seaside Park Municipal Building. That's how specific they get. They leave you in this part floating around, and all of a sudden they want to tell you what time you have to get in the room. Then there is a process of meetings. Remember, we've got 3 people from Seaside Park, 3 people from Berkeley Township, going back and forth. You have 60 days. If within 60 days you can't get a vote of 4 out of those 6 people, so basically somebody from the Seaside Park team would have to agree with Berkeley, or a person from the Berkeley team would have to agree with Seaside Park in order to get 4. If you do get 4, that decision is final. If you don't, which seems likely, then then immediately after that's been done, within, I think it's a period of 10 days, don't hold me to that, but some set period of time like that, and that kind of time frame, Seaside Park must, not may, must appeal to Superior Court or refer the decision to the Superior Court. The Superior Court assignment judge will then pick 3 people. No, not the Seaside Park people, not the Berkeley people. 3 people of their own, the court's own choosing. And those people have 30 days, or unless the judge gives them more time, to make a decision. That decision is final, and the kicker is that the costs of those 3 people are borne by Berkeley and Seaside Park, so you get to pay for that as well. So that's really where we are now. That's why it's important to go through this process, get this information, seriously, get your ideas. The governing body and the professionals and the consultants have all done a lot of thinking about what the information is that would be useful. What are the things that we have to take into account to be able to put together reports and to be able to make a decision that has a rational basis. Because even after this process, if the governing body decides no, then the people of South Seaside Park can still go to court and say that was arbitrary and capricious, but now the governing body will have a lot of information to say no. You may not like the decision we made, but it was not arbitrary and capricious. It was an informed decision. Here is the information on which we relied. Equally, if the governing body decides to accept the annexation, and there are people who feel that was the wrong decision, and they challenge, then there's that basis. It was not arbitrary and capricious. A lot of information has been acquired. So that is pretty much my presentation. If anybody has a quick question. The most beautiful words in the English language. Seeing none. And I'm going to go sit over there.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start the open forum for everybody, whoever wants to come up and ask a question. Again, there's not a lot of back and forth on this. Can you turn up just a touch? Oh, no, I was talking to Owen. There won't be a lot of back and forth, but just come up, ask your questions. Or it could be, if you don't have a question, you can just state a comment or a concern. 3 minutes, I'll time you. And just make sure you speak into the microphone. Actually, hold on. Owen, how do I make sure this stays in? 'Cause I don't want it to. I won't take your time.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
All right, James Volcomer, 356 Roberts Avenue. I have to say this, for over 40 years, the people of Seaside Park have been paying higher property taxes than they should be paying. And why is that? Over 40 years ago, the municipal council refused to annex South Seaside Park. So every year after that, you were paying more than you should have. Now you have another opportunity to add those ratables, and they are far higher now, to lower your property taxes. In the zoning board hearings which heard Berkeley Township financial experts and the petitioners' experts, they all agreed that if South Seaside Park became a part of Seaside Park, the property taxes would be lower. Now, concerning the negotiations following the adoption of the ordinance. It's always important to realize that the Seaside Park then would have a claim on the value of everything owned by Berkeley Township. That runs into many millions of dollars. Those many millions of dollars are far higher than the debt of Berkeley Township. So in the negotiations, you could argue that Berkeley Township should be paying Seaside Park money. Now, if I were Seaside Park, I'd say, oh, no, don't pay our debt. We'll keep everything we own, and you pay us nothing, and we're all happy, and we just go back to keeping taxes the way they are, except, of course, the property taxes in Seaside Park would be lower. Thank you.
And if you want to just come, you can stand in line or just jump up.
Yes, hi, Paul Restio, 48 10th Avenue. Just a question on process. Given that once a decision is made, someone could obviously go to court and seek a judgment as to whether it was capricious or not, or whether it was, due diligence was done. Does it make sense for Seaside Park to essentially file with the court to get that ruling basically out of the way, if you would, so that once they make a decision, and almost in parallel, they'll get a ruling that says that we rule in favor, that what you did was in fact, judicious and in fact was diligent. And that would avoid the uncertainty of some group kind of mustering about, should they seek, legal counsel to go and seek a judgment. I assume it's a one-time, once a judge makes a judgment that it was diligent, that would end that issue. But again, the question is, should Seaside Park think about filing for that court judgment almost in parallel?
No.
I can't. When we're done, I'll talk to you, because I don't want to break the flow.
Yeah.
Alex Gondos, 44 7th Avenue. After all of this goes through its process, and then it comes to the Borough Council making their decision, and now all of a sudden we're annexed. Why is it that it's going to be after the fact that we figure out sewer systems, who owes who, and so on and so forth? I would think that would be part of the due diligence now to find out what those numbers are. It's kind of like buying a car, telling them what you want. Here, I'm going to give you what you want, and we're going to talk about the price later. Now, maybe there's some people in this room who have the ability to do that, and they don't care. But being a Seaside Park resident, I would think that we would have all those numbers prior to, not after the fact. Hey, we're going to figure all that after. That's just not making any sense to me. I have a couple other questions, but I'm going to let other residents from South Seaside and Seaside Park come up and ask their questions, and then maybe I'll come back up again.
Good afternoon. Do you want my home residence or the primary residence or? Okay, Pamela Coles, 13-34 George Street, Fairlawn, New Jersey. We have a residence down here on 20th Ave, excuse me. Excuse me? 20 down here down at the shore. Our residence is 26 20th Ave. I have several questions. I do want to disclose that I'm a former zoning board official, and I have questions regarding zoning, as well as, various other questions. So regarding the gentleman who mentioned the budget, currently the budget of Seaside Park is $62.8 million. Our school, we pay a ratio of 65.5% in school taxes, and then the regional high school taxes is 55.7% in high school taxes, or regional high school taxes. So my question is, you have, and a majority of the students coming down probably do not utilize the school or regional high school taxes. They use their primary tax base up in wherever they live. You know, this is just a secondary residence. So it seems that there's a duplicity in taxes regarding Berkeley Heights or Berkeley Heights. There's a duplicity in their taxes. And so that's one comment. I do have a question regarding OPRA, the Open Public Meetings Act. And will you be filing an OPA request to gather any additional information? And regarding the zoning ordinances, when you had mentioned that the zoning ordinances are pretty much going to go away, and they won't be incorporated into Seaside Park, I believe you had mentioned it, they won't be incorporated into Seaside Park.
There will be zoning ordinances in place. I'm saying that it's not an option to just do nothing. It's Berkeley's ordinances don't transfer over without action of the governing body.
Okay,
It's Seaside Park.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. So does the debt include depreciation of police cars, public works, water, and I'm sure there's going to only have to be part-time versus full-time adaptation, you know, municipal employee hiring. And ambulatory services, rescue services, fire services. You, Seaside Park already, I know this microphone seems dead. We already utilize Seaside Parks. They're there in a blink, whether it be for Island Beach State Park. They are magnificent. I can't say enough about them. They are just absolutely fabulous. Rather than having Berkeley Township, it would take 45 minutes for a rescue service. So I hope that those services will continue, and I'm sure that they will. You know, if there's a life-saving situation or something of that nature, that would be, that would be inclusive. Okay, thank you. I have more, but I'll ask afterwards. Thank you so much.
Okay. Whoop. Yeah. That's what happens when you're sure. Okay, I'm fine. Yeah. Kathy Fulcomer, 356 Roberts Avenue, South Seaside Park. I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I did watch it on YouTube. And even knowing many of you, because I have lived here for since 1998 in South Seaside Park, I noticed that there are some of you that don't realize how long this has really been going on. My husband and I bought our first home here in South Seaside Park in 1972. And at that time, I don't have checks I don't keep my checks going back that long, but I know we were writing checks out to the South Seaside Park Voters and Homeowners Association, which culminated in 1978 when we applied to join Seaside Park. And the court agreed, just like 3 courts now did, I don't know how many courts did back then, that we would be entitled to apply for de-annexation, which we did. And at that time, Seaside Park chose not to accept us, but the law at that time was that we could have forced it, all right? but the organization decided not to do that. Now, I understand now the laws have changed, and the very complicated, it's kind of complicated what was the process was told to all of you. So I wanted to all of you to know that for 40, almost 50 years, this has been going on, okay? And it was started up again before Sandy. Some of you don't realize that. Then after Sandy, we had to get all those signatures all over again, which we did. And then after that, we went to 38 planning board meetings. My husband and I missed one. We were out of state. So 38 planning board meetings in Berkeley Township. And we were kind of laughing. Our little group was always laughing. What else are we going to do on the third Thursday of every month? Because we would always all go over there. So we are very, very happy. We know all of you quite well. My husband and I have been around here quite a while. We would be totally just so happy to be part of you. But I want to tell you that we are, since you've been listening to my, I'm trying to, the procedures that we've gone through. We have taken photos. We went to meetings. We had placards. We didn't miss any meetings. And it was quite a lot on our part to hire an attorney, which we did. We hired professionals, as your township, has hired professionals. That's all right, I got the mic right here. Okay. So we all chipped in for all those years. And let me know when my 3 minutes are up. So for all those years, we chipped in our little community of South Seaside Park. So this is, we are, as I said, very determined, a very cohesive group, and we don't give up that easily. And I just wanted to mention to you, we've been doing this almost 50 years now. So I hope that we can become a part of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to have you guys hold the mic just because the stand's a little weird. So anybody want to come back up? Okay. You're okay holding it?
Hi, Lois Cordero, 102 C Street, Seaside Park. I just have a couple quick questions. First of all, how many registered voters are in South Seaside Park? And to the previous lady's comment, maybe Seaside Park is trying to tell you something. What? Oh. Okay. To the previous lady's comment, maybe Seaside Park is trying to tell you something. If it's been going on for 50 years, maybe it's trying to tell you something.
I'm just going to say this. Everyone is here. Everyone is here to be heard. Okay? And I just want to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to say what they want to say. We're friends, we're neighbors, and we don't always like what everybody has to say, but we don't want it to be personal. So just please understand that. Okay? My husband never agrees with me half the time. So, all right.
Shirley Kressel, 700 North Bayview Avenue. I was here for the other annexation, and there were reasons why we did vote it down. It had nothing to do personally with anybody. There was reasons why we felt it wasn't the best thing. And supposedly it wasn't supposed to come back, but it has, and we're here to listen to everything. One of my concerns is how Midway Beach works, because I know some of that property is leased. Some of it's got the private beaches. So I'm curious how that works out if they have a leased piece of property. What then happens? I know some were able to buy their own property, but what happens to the leased property? And I know the rules have changed because with the first one, every voter in town got to vote on it, which was important. Now I understand just council votes on it now. I feel that it would be a good idea for council to realize that we want say. We don't want the 6 of them to listen to us and then vote. We should have the right to at least vote, let them see how we feel about it, and then base their decision on the voters and the taxpayers in Seaside Park.
Thank you.
It's on.
Sharon Resnack. I don't know how many of the people attending here realize that Seaside Park was originally part of Berkeley Township until it was incorporated as an independent borough in 1898. The land was first part of Dover Township, but became part of Berkeley Township when Berkeley was created in 1875. The initial creation, Seaside Park, was originally a section of Dover Township, now Toms River Township, transferred to Berkeley when Berkeley Township was established in 1875. This area became known as the Seaside Park, 3 separate words, section of Berkeley Township. The incorporation on March 3rd, 1898, Seaside Park officially separated from Berkeley Township and became an independent borough. The annexation, an additional area known as Berkeley Tract, north of the original borough, was annexed on or about May 12, 1900. The community Seaside Park was once a section of Dover Township. Until Berkeley Township was created in 1875. At the last meeting, a question about how this would impact the post office and the zip codes. South Seaside Park uses the Seaside Park post office and their zip code. And if you don't know already, Toms River is the one processing all the mail from Seaside Park and delivering it. So, you know, the Seaside Park post office is basically a convenience for the residents in this area. They also, if you want to compare Holiday City is Berkeley Township. They use Toms River zip codes, and the Toms River post office delivers to them. So it's all based on location and proximity to the delivering routes of the post office. And I just didn't feel that people realized how much we're already incorporated into Seaside Park.
All right, next.
Thank you. I'm Jeff. I live at 53 D Street, Seaside Park. So thanks for the presentation. This is all new information for me because I wasn't here at the first meeting. So I'm ramping up and trying to learn a lot. So I probably have more thoughts rather than questions and expecting answers, but just wanted to share my opinion on some things. So a gentleman brought up earlier in terms of trying to understand, you know, the burden that possibly could come to Seaside Park and the financial issues. So don't know why that has to be, or if it has to be that way, but it seems like this mystery, the unknown, and certainly a poison pill for the people of Seaside Park to maybe have to digest after this. Because the first thought to myself is, what's the benefit of someone in Seaside Park? We think, okay, lower taxes. But I don't know if this financial burden that we might have is going to actually take away that opportunity to have lower taxes. So, we all think about there's 2 things guaranteed in life. It's death and taxes, and I've never heard of any town getting lower taxes. So maybe that's a third thing that we're going to get guaranteed, that you don't ever get lower taxes. So I just question about what that really means for Seaside Park and a resident and the benefit. There could be lots of other benefits that I'm not aware of because, like I stated, I'm just learning and new to this process, and I wasn't at the first meeting. But it seems like there's a lot of uncertainties for someone that lives in Seaside Park with what is the benefits and will there be any tax reduction for us.
Sorry.
My turn.
Your turn.
Gary Holston, 21 21st Avenue, Seaside Park. Good question Al brought up about not knowing the financial responsibility of either town, I guess, right now. But I would believe the company that Seaside Park hired you to do your investigation and come back and report to the council. You probably have a good idea financially on what that burden's going to be and are going to share that with the council in Seaside Park, correct? Do they get that information ahead of time?
This is an annexation impact analysis, so it will include some financial modeling.
Okay, and I agree it's very important to know ahead of time, but I think the three people that you're going to appoint to a panel to look over a lot of this, just for example, the bonds that Berkeley might have right now, they can only use the ones that affect Seaside, South Seaside Park, where Berkeley is, correct? And as far as tax-wise, does anybody have the final absolute amount of money that is collected just in Berkeley for Berkeley Township themselves with all these new houses? And my house is pretty new also. I can't imagine the financial responsibility of the taxpayers. I know it will go down because of the tax rate between the two difference. If you don't have to do too much figuring to figure that one out. But I think it's very important that the council in this area does their due diligence and looks at all the financial responsibility and then come back and make the decision, for the people.
June Korzeniewski, 114 H Street. Building on what this gentleman said, I want to make sure that after you are finished with your presentation and you have all the facts and figures and you're presenting it to the council, that there will be another meeting where all of us can hear the financial and the other effects that are going to happen if we join. So I think it behooves the council to make sure that before they make a decision, we get all the information that they have. Thank you.
I have two people coming at me. I don't know. Who's gonna win? Rutgers wins.
Gene Domowitz, 197 Cape Court. So I'm echoing the last 3 or 4 comments about the cost and the timing of knowing when the magic dollar figure is. That seems crazy to me that it's in the order that it is. It was implied that the negotiation process that involved the 3 people from South Seaside Park and Seaside Park would not produce the required 4 votes. And if I understand it correctly, that would mean that the process will go to the judge to appoint 3 people, and that their decision would be binding, right? Okay. So my question is, who are they? How does the judge qualify them? Are they attorneys? Are they finance people? Are they residents of the town, either town? And since their decision is binding, this seems critical. Seems critical. And then I think the first gentleman said he implied that Seaside Park would be ahead of the game dollars-wise when you consider the debt and the tax revenue relative to Berkeley. So, echoing what this woman just said, how real is that? And if it's true, the details should be presented to the public, because this seems like it's the most critical question. Thank you.
You can also pass off the microphone to someone.
Oh, I'll do that. My name is Chuck Appleby, 215 10th Avenue, Seaside Park. A couple things. I think, like Nancy Pelosi said it, we'll know what's in the bill after the bill is passed. So we'll know the cost after it's done, but you'll give us an idea. So, I mean, it is going to be what it is. I was a big supporter of this over 40 years ago, I guess. I have a lot of family in South Seaside. I live in Seaside. I still talk to them. They still talk to me, so it's a good thing. But it's been a long time coming. So you're here for issues. So an issue I've had is in the original time that this was being done, Island Beach State Park, which is in Berkeley Township, was going to be transferred over originally years ago. Now it kept out. They kept that piece out. They thought it would be controversial. I think there's impacts to that, to Seaside Park. So I think it should be addressed what those impacts might be. Police, services, and all that, and costs. And if it's in Berkeley, do we then still negotiate with Berkeley on a cost for providing those services or whatever, or the state of New Jersey, whichever it is? So it's state property, but it's within Berkeley Township. So I think that needs to be sorted out. I'd like to know if there's a law or anything where Berkeley could say, oh, you get this too, and then they just dump that on us, which I think is a good thing. But just what might happen with that. The other is currently we have a land use board in Seaside Park. With this change, there's going to be a lot of changes going on and a lot of confusion. So I think going back to a Board of Adjustment planning board for Seaside Park might be appropriate, and that costs Seaside Park more, but an analysis to see how many variances are given in South Seaside Park and things like that, and see what that impact would be once it transfers over, and the caseload and stuff would be good for our zoning board and everything. Police, I think you probably could understand all that. But I wish the ordinances could all be sorted out ahead of time, but I don't think so. But the cost of setting up the ordinances to manage the various types of properties in South Seaside, which are different than ours, not just sidewalks and curbs, but just those impacts, I hope you include that in your study. So I'll give my extra time to Alex Condos. Next. Somebody, anybody? Oh, there you go. There you go.
Relax, Chuck. I'm Tom Joseph, 704 South Bayview in Seaside Park. I really have a rather specific question. If Seaside Park votes for annexation, and we now have the combined total borough, and somehow or other we will integrate shore water, or at least the water system in South Seaside Park, with the utility in Seaside Park, which is part run by the town. Does that combination of resources and wells generate sufficient capacity so that when that's examined, we determine whether or not we need to drill well 11? Because it would be sure nice if we didn't need it. Save us several $1 million, and it would, anyway. So that's my question. I'm guessing if I can get an answer, I'll read it in the report. Who's next? No, there we go.
Hey, thank you. Hey, my name is Bobby Ring. I live at 119 Surf Drive in South Seaside Park, and I'd just like to comment on a couple of things that were said. This is just from my personal knowledge. I'm not an expert on this, but I've been involved in this process and attended not as many of the meetings as the Fulcomers did, but probably about 25 of them over the last number of years over in Berkeley. This gentleman just mentioned Shore Water. Shore Water is a private utility company regulated by the Board of Public Utilities, and this is a plus for Seaside Park. They would not have any responsibility whatsoever for that utility. The ratepayers, we pay our water bill to Shore Water Company. They maintain that infrastructure. The water is sufficient for South Seaside Park residents now. Yes, there's a line between South Seaside Park and Seaside Park on a map, but that's not, erasing that line doesn't all of a sudden make that water insufficient to supply the residents there. Midway Beach is private property. Private property is not part of annexation. It doesn't matter whether you lease that property, someone owns it, or whether you own that property, Midway Beach, the condo association, their beach is all private property and not part of annexation. I'm not hearing anyone talk about one of the big pluses, and that's over $4 million in potential taxes being paid by South Seaside Park residents that would come to the borough of Seaside Park. And I would represent to you that that would far exceed the debt service and the cost of services that could be provided, or would be provided to South Seaside Park, and why several people mentioned that certified municipal financial experts testified that this would result in tax reduction for Seaside Park residents. Berkeley Township spent several $100,000 fighting this because we were a cash cow to them and they didn't want to lose this. In my opinion, Berkeley doesn't fully support the emergency services that Seaside Park and this organization, Tri-Boro First Aid, provides in South Seaside Park and throughout Island Beach State Park. And that's an excellent point that Chuck made about whether that responsibility remains with them or not. The good news is now every single person who lives in South Seaside Park would be paying taxes to Seaside Park, and the financial support would be there, all right, and would provide more funding to the borough of Seaside Park to support those organizations. It's been almost a 10-year process, and the township said, no, we're not going to do it. The Homeowners Voters Association appealed to a court that said, yes, you can. The township wasn't given up yet, so they appealed to the appellate court, and a 3-judge panel in the appellate court unanimously ruled that Berkeley Township could not prevent us from leaving, that we had met the obligation, the burden of proving that we leaving them would not be a financial burden to them. Berkeley didn't give up then. They appealed to the New Jersey State Supreme Court, and all 7 justices on the New Jersey State Supreme Court clearly said that we could do that as well. And on page 34 of their ruling, on the bottom of the page, there's note 4 that says that Berkeley never brought it up before, but is now bringing it up to the state Supreme Court, and that, yes, White Sands Beach becomes part of Seaside Park. It doesn't get retained by Berkeley Township. Now, they were recently, quote unquote, donated 2 blocks of beach adjacent to Island Beach Motor Lodge. And I would suggest to you that Berkeley Township would be wasting their taxpayers' money trying to fight that that does not also become part of White Sands Beach and also become part of Seaside Park. A lot of people have told me, people who've lived here a lot longer than me, that that property was, there's a deed restriction on that property that says that property reverts back to Berkeley Township, so it wasn't necessarily a donation. Thank you very much.
Hi, Joanne Penn, Seaside Park. I guess this is a question that might be on other people's minds. What happens to the liquor licenses? Seaside Park is going to get all those liquor licenses, I hope, with this going forward. But my understanding is that there's a lot of money involved with that also. So I'm curious as to what's going to happen.
Anyone else? Yeah, you can come up. Yeah. Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken yet that is interested in speaking? Oh, let me just give everybody who's spoken a chance. Okay. All right, we're going to start again.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. My name's Tony Trouse. I just moved into 4th Avenue here in Seaside. I just moved here in Seaside Park a few months ago, and I'm quite enjoying being a part of the process here. I love it here. It's a nice area. I love it here in the winter. I love it here in the summer. And my perspective and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, the people of South Seaside Park shop at places like the White Owl Market and the liquor stores, and they, fund our local businesses here, and our people go down the road and they drink at the Crab House and all the other places. So, Also, we're all adults. There's that old saying, you know, never assume because it makes an ass out of you and me. And I think that's what I'm hearing here from everybody is that, you know, everybody just wants to know all the facts and have a chance to vote on it as a, you know, system to make sure that we're not getting screwed. You know, we don't want to assume that everything is going to work smoothly. We want to be told and we want to be able to read it, and then we want to be able to vote on it so that everybody feels comfortable here. But yeah, we're spending money right now down the street on 7 new businesses that could be a part of Seaside Park if we do this merger. And I think that's great. And hopefully that will spawn more businesses in the area and make it a really great place for more people want to live here year round instead of just in the summertime. You know, and that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, anybody who hasn't spoken yet want to ask any questions? We're good? Okay, you can come back.
Just one comment on what you said and what somebody else said. We're being told our taxes will go down. That's what you guys are here to be able to figure out, to tell us, are our taxes going down? If our taxes are going down, I don't think any of us are going to have a problem with it. But, you know, South Seaside say, well, your taxes are going down. If we knew our taxes were going down, we wouldn't have paid to have this firm look into it all. We have to hire extra help and do all this, and, you know, we need the answers before we can say, okay, our taxes are going down. If they do, come on in, South Seaside Park. If mine are going out, sorry.
Anyone else? Okay. I think we're gonna, is there anything else from the team? Yeah, and then I'll close. Okay.
We're not answering specific questions, and I just wanted to note, we will be doing financial modeling, but as Jean said, we can't tell you what those final numbers are going to be. We'll do projections. We have been and will continue to, and it will be in our report what estimates there are, what models could look like, but there will not be a final answer prior to any vote being made. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. That's statute, that's the state. Nobody in this room, the council members, nobody else has the ability to override that state statute. Unfortunately, not sure why our legislators wrote it that way, however long ago when they did, but we have to follow it. So I just wanted to make that note, but we're going to do the best at making projections and models that we can.
Okay, we have one more question. Hold on one second, you guys. Hold on.
Thank you. Faye Herring, 21 I Street. I've heard a lot of things. I've been here all my life, summers, 20 years full-time. My opinion would be, come on in. But my thing is that I feel that we, as residents of Seaside Park and South Seaside, should have a referendum to let our council know how we feel, because you're representing us. And there's only 6 of you, or 3 of you, or however many represent us. And you should want to know what we feel about it before you make your final decision.
Okay, you can clap. Okay, I want to say thank you guys for coming out tonight. We're only doing 2 of these, and again, sorry that anybody got turned away 2 weeks ago. It was room capacity. Obviously, you guys are very engaged. You have 2 extraordinary communities, so get home safe. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll speak with you soon.